This is a story about bunka. It's a Japanese term for culture. The Japanese have developed their unique culture over 1,000 years. It's a culture that has informed the way Japan does business. Now Japan is pursuing a new economic strategy. Peter Drucker famously said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So what will happen as Japan's new economic strategy comes up against its ancient culture?
The economic growth of Japan has been the most spectacular in recent history, a fine example of what a system of free economy can accomplish with wise planning, determination, and hard work.
Many of us have an image in our minds of Japanese business traditions, like the groups of interrelated companies known as keiretsus and the lifestyles of the salaried employees who worked at them.
Undercurrents of change have repositioned where Japan stands today.
Mireya Solís of the Brookings Institution says the image of the salaryman was always a bit overdone.
The traditional image we have of the Japanese employee, the salaryman, is, applied really to just a segment of the working population. The idea that people would stay in the same job all their careers and that there was this steady progression and that they would be extremely loyal to their company. They would not be seeking for opportunities. But many other workers in Japan who were employed by smaller companies, never had that level of predictability. We believe that something like 38 to 40% of all employees in Japan are in this category of non-regular workers. The corporations and the government have also tried to bring more flexibility to employment practices, and we begin to see that many employees now are doing these lateral changes, and they do not expect to stay in the same corporation all of their careers. So I think that that's adding, again, more dynamism to the Japanese labor market.
The culture is changing.
Hiromi Yamaji of the Tokyo Stock Exchange politely suggests that the idea of the salaryman is at the very least out of date. There was the salaryman that we all talked about. When you had a long-term job, fairly quiet, not a lot of raises, but it was a lot of stability. This is a different world.
Well, yes, that's a kind of stereotype kind of image of the Japanese workers. But it's amazingly, since 2015 or 16, about 1 out of 3 new freshmen to the companies are thinking to leave the company. To join the startups is one of the most popular jobs the university students to choose. Used to be like bureaucrats or consultants or investment banks, those kind of things. But nowadays, number of students or the freshmen is trying to leave the current company and join the new startups.
And large Japanese companies are relying more on those startups, attracting new college grads. Companies like Masashi Nagayasu's Panasonic Automotive.
Our business model or profit model need to be also changed. So we need to have more capability to partnering with many kind of industrial or automotive industry-related sectors, including startup companies.
Even as Panasonic Automotive changes the way it does business, and with whom, it works to preserve the best of the larger Panasonic culture, a culture established by the founder of its predecessor company, Konosuke Matsushita.
At the same time, Kei Matsushita is our own company's founder. This is no change forever. And Panasonic is almost 110 years history, but Panasonic Automotive has 80 years history. So we still put importance on our founders' philosophy in our mind. And this is our backbone. This won't change. But otherwise, we can change.
One of the things you're changing is the name of the company.
Yes.
How do employees at Panasonic Automotive respond to changing the company? Because Panasonic's an iconic name.
Yeah. I've been working for Panasonic for 42 years. Yes, exactly. Some people are expressing, a kind of nostalgic, feelings right? And first response from them are not very positive, frankly, some of them. But however, to speed up the process of transforming our company and, of course, profitabilities, growth strategy, we need to show the evidence to the employees. I do believe they will change the mindset to a positive way. So that's why I have to show the result to the employee to make it everyone be positive way. We will speed up the process of the transform ourselves to fit to the market at a global basis. So our customers' response are quite positive.
Over at Sony, CEO Hiroki Totoki has a similar goal of communication with employees as he continues his company's transformation. What you're describing is a very different Sony from what it was 20 years ago. How do you bring along Sony employees to this new world?
That's a great question. And, even the portfolio shift is the right thing from the investor's point of view. And real business has been done by the people. And if you look down to the ground, people are very committed to the current business and current job. And to shift the job and the business domain is not really important. But as a CEO, most important thing is how to persuade with rationale, this is the right thing we have to do. That kind of communication is quite important to the employee. We have to transform the entire Sony, otherwise we cannot survive. And sometimes the transformation is very severe, but we have to do that.
Over and above the experiences of individual Japanese company leaders and the experiences of Japanese workers, there's a larger cultural question: whether the conservatism we've seen in Japanese markets and investors is imprinted, or whether it has been the result of macroeconomic forces which have changed. Eiji Ueda of Apollo observed the back and forth between economics and culture during his years at Goldman Sachs and National Pension Fund, GPIF. For 30 years or so, Japan has been perceived as sort of low risk, low return.
Yes.
As you say, cash is king.
Yeah.
And it's been thought maybe that's part of the Japanese culture. Is that not right? That Japanese are not inherently conservative?
I don't think so, because when I started in my career, GDP was growing, high single digit, and the 10-year yield was 6%. So I don't think this is the cultural things. People basically make rational decisions with the macro environment, because the cash is the best assets to own compared to the others. And now things are different. So I think if people make a rational decision, economical rational decisions, I think people are open for various ideas on the new finance space.
There's nothing like 3% inflation to get people to think differently. And we have our work cut out for us, as do some of the other large providers of private market investment opportunities. But this is about education. This is not about whether they will move. They are going to move. The Japanese institutions are moving. And so it's just a rate of change, and we're seeing an inflection point in that rate of change, spurred on by higher inflation.